All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and it's Friday, so I'm not going to keep you long. As always, I'll come back over the weekend, do a deep dive TA, and show you all the positions, so on and so forth, as we examine the closes from the week. As it stands, sentiment is improving slightly, but it's still pretty beaten down, isn't it? But just a reminder, in amongst all of the US regulatory FUD, here's some perspective. A 2023 UBS report on family offices, minimum bar is 50 to 100 million of investable assets. And of those, 35% plan to increase digital asset exposure, while 5% plan to decrease it. So a tsunami of money is coming into this space. And we'll get to the charts in a minute. I'll show you this Bitcoin cycle once more. But remember, I've been saying for a long time, we're going to have to probably undergo a 60-day consolidation cycle. I said when it's coupled, when those sideways cycles are coupled with large amounts of FUD in the media, then usually that's because they are letting in the big boys. And we've got confirmation of that, so I'll show you that in just a second. Again, to reiterate the sentiment, the current sentiment is that this is not an environment where a parabolic movement in a short time frame can occur. Yet, just looking at things like Nvidia, Apple, Meta, the list goes on. Parabolic advances are occurring. This does not look like a bear market rally. People seem to forget how quickly Bitcoin can move. When we were down at the bear market lows of around 15.6, nobody thought we could be at 30k plus in just 4 months, but yet we did it. And so here's how the game is played. We release a bunch of media FUD, we chop the price around sideways, we run everyone's stops whilst everyone is incorrect. If you're bullish, you're wrong, and if you're bearish, you're also wrong, since all we do is chop around and go sideways and run everyone's stops, and there's good reason for that. Whilst they're running everyone's stops, they hand the Bitcoin over to the big boys. And this is no longer speculation, this is being confirmed. Blackrock is filing to have a spot Bitcoin ETF. So remember, back in 2017, BlackRock's CEO comes out and says Bitcoin is just an index of money laundering. And then fast forward to today, and we see BlackRock has filed for a spot Bitcoin ETF with Coinbase as a crypto custodian. So it's pretty funny, isn't it? The SEC goes after Coinbase, next thing you know, out comes BlackRock with a Bitcoin ETF partnership. So this is going to be an iShares trust, of course, owned by BlackRock. Unlike GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which is non-redeemable, this is allegedly going to be redeemable. So I think what we can say with high confidence now is we can accept our original hypothesis that all of this chop was indeed an institutional accumulation zone, and this kind of speaks volumes to that, doesn't it? So here's the big picture, right? The SEC goes around, sues everyone and his mother. BlackRock buys massive amounts of crypto during the FUD period. BlackRock then announces filing for a Bitcoin ETF using Coinbase. Hong Kong is putting pressure on the banks to take crypto clients. We also have 10-year-old Tether FUD recirculating. Something massive is indeed brewing. And when we get to the end of this 60-day consolidation cycle, you're going to see exactly what? A huge bull market. This, of course, is the alpha that using cycles gives us. I've shown before many times that you can send Bitcoin via text message. Well, now you can do it over email. So innovation continues in the Bitcoin space. We continue to see Bitcoin become easier and easier to send. And as always, Bitcoin doesn't care, because despite a record pace of monetary policy tightening and the largest wave of negative idiosyncratic news that Bitcoin crypto has ever faced, a record high of 68% of the Bitcoin hasn't moved in at least 1 year. So if all of this stuff that's going on of late cannot shake out the people that are holding Bitcoin, nothing is going to, right? Absolutely nothing is going to. You'll notice Bitcoin back above the yellow range breakout. So a couple of wicks, perfectly understandable. That's what Bitcoin does. So long as we can continue to chop around into the end of this 60-day cycle, I think we stand a very good chance at coming out of here swinging. Remember, this 60-day cycle low is plus or minus 6 days, so that would give it a 10% tolerance. So we're halfway through the month. Of course, we are pretty close to this now, just a couple of weeks away. And then I think it's time to break this downward sloping blue support line, and Bitcoin can go on to do Bitcoin things once more. We'll also get to find out if this theory, this strange, comical looking fractal that no one really believes can occur, we'll also get to find out whether or not this is still in play, or whether we are going to deviate away from this, something like this, right? And then we can sort of scratch this idea off and say probably no all-time high this year. But believe you me, a lot of people thought the stock melt up. A lot of people thought this chart was simply impossible, right? A lot of people thought that. And now look at it. It seems to be more feasible than ever before. So expect the unexpected. So as I said, really, we kind of can accept our hypothesis now that we've got a accumulation zone to let the big boys in. All of this FUD was indeed FUD. They want you to sell your supply. There is not really much supply going on because so many people keep holding on to it, right? There's not really much liquid or circulating supply at the moment. There's just simply people that keep stacking Bitcoin and keep hanging on to it. So they have to undergo these accumulation zones. They have to undergo these ranges so that they can take all the leverage traders' stops, hand it over to the big boys, and then they can launch their ETF. I will say this, and I think this is actually an important point. I probably should have mentioned this earlier. Look out for if the ETF comes after a major parabolic price advance. So if the ETF comes out in the next couple of months and the Bitcoin price is kind of trading in an uptrend, but a general healthy manner, even if it's basing in sideways and the ETF comes out, that's fine as well. But let's just assume for 1 minute that this chart does indeed come to fruition or something similar to this. Let's assume that Bitcoin finds the cycle low at the end of the month and then starts to advance. If we get up anywhere near all-time highs, let me draw quite a wide box here. If we get somewhere in this neighborhood and BlackRock releases its ETF there, then alarm bells should be ringing for you, in my humble opinion. If they release this ETF near all-time highs or above all-time highs, it's likely that all they're going to do with it is use it to short the price of Bitcoin. And all of the people that will be pouring into this ETF, so that is family offices, institutions, pension funds, your average Joe investor that just can't be bothered to go through a crypto exchange or any of that stuff. Instead, they're just going to hold a spot Bitcoin ETF in their traditional finance accounts. All of those people will be rushing to buy this ETF. And of course, BlackRock will be using it for exit liquidity. So just keep this in the back of your mind that whilst a spot Bitcoin ETF is probably quite a positive thing for Bitcoin, whilst if it truly is a spot Bitcoin ETF, that means anytime somebody buys a chunk of the ETF, there has to be a 1-to-1 ratio of that buying power bought on the open spot Bitcoin market. So therefore, it creates legitimate, real volume, real underlying demand, and will contribute to removing real Bitcoin from the supply. So whilst that is good, whilst it provides another way to get access to Bitcoin, whilst it makes an easy option to get access to Bitcoin, just remember, if it occurs somewhere near the all-time highs, then likely more games are going to be played, likely BlackRock are going to use it to short the top of Bitcoin, and likely most people that end up buying it are going to suffer somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 80% drawdowns shortly thereafter. So just keep that in mind. If it comes out soon, and if it comes out as sideways pricing structure, then we could probably say, okay, there's room to run here, right? But if it comes out at or above all-time highs, then alarm bells should be ringing. So I'll keep you updated on this. I'm going to keep an eye on this as well. But just remember, this is how the game is played. Okay, this is how the game is played. They will use the ETF likely to short the top. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Anyway, it's Friday.
It's Friday. You ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you enjoy your weekend. Like I said, I'll be back to examine all the closes and do all the live positioning and show you how I'm going to handle the markets in real time as a pro swing trader heading into next week. But until then, I wish you all the best. Take care from me. And until next time, cheers. Bye.